Hello everyone and welcome to BHD Studios. This is my first shooting impressions with the brand new Leica SL2, as you can see right over there, and the new, well, it's not brand new, but the 16 to 35 f3.5 to 4.5, I think. I'll correct it along the bottom here if I said that wrong. Brand new camera body from Leica. I had a great time. I did shoot an unboxing video. I'm here to do my unboxing of the brand new Leica SL2. Alright, so let's move this beauty out of the way. Inner black box. Thank you so much, Leica North America. I wasn't jealous that I didn't get to go to Germany, but I know that you guys love seeing me do unboxing. And so Leica packaging has always been pretty good. This looks quite a bit smaller though than the SL box. And here, wow, look at that. And of course, Leica always has their sort of their sexy little bags. And yeah, and one of the reasons why I always tell people I like the Leica chargers is because they tell you when you're at 80% charged, and it's okay. And then here is finally the SL2. The SL2. You can't see this, but I always kind of do a sniff test. I'm gonna kind of, yeah, it has a kind of a metal. All right, so here we go. This is the SL2 eye candy zoom in of this camera and lens, but this is a beautiful combination here. And to be honest, I didn't shoot much with this lens because as beautiful as this lens is optically, it's quite huge. And I recommend if you are kind of more of a walking around and shooting, this feels like a medium format. Like if you're used to shooting with the GFX 50R or 50S, with maybe even like with the 63 or 45, this is going to either weigh more or about the same. Now you are getting 47 megapixels on this Panasonic / Tower Jazz sensor that Leica often puts in their cameras, although that's not an official statement from Leica, but we pretty much know that that's what it is because it is also on the Panasonic S1R. And I did get a chance to play with the S1R, SL2, S1R, SL2, S1R. And I'm going to be shooting a video, a local photographer in town here, he has one, and we've met up twice now with the SL2 and the S1R. And you know, the funny thing is, he actually is going to buy the SL2, which sounds crazy because he loves the articulating screen on the S1R and he loves a lot of the customizability with the S1R because they have a lot more buttons and dials. But the aesthetics and the ergonomics on this is actually really nice. The grip on the S1R is a little bit deeper and bigger, but just having this little rubberized bit on the inside here and just having a minimalist dial setup on this camera, it's just really nice to shoot with. If you are a landscape architectural photographer, you are used to having a big lens and you maybe even shoot with a tripod, then this lens is great. And like a lot of these SL lenses, unlike the M lenses, which are really the ideal, you know, like M lenses are like this, right? They're compact and small and light because, you know, this M mount was invented back in 1954. It was meant to be small, light, and compact. Well, now with autofocus and all these other electronics, like their R series SLR cameras and lenses, they overbuilt those lenses as well. And so, in fact, I've been using I have it on my 28 Summicron, but back then it was the M to T adapter. Now they call it M to L adapter because this is, you know, now they've rebranded this as the L mount. It was originally a T mount and then the TL mount, and then now it's the L mount. And there is an APS-C and a full frame version of the same mount, but just different type of lenses. And so I think that's actually a really smart move on Leica because there are a lot of fans of the Leica CL. And I've shot with the original T, T2, and TL, and I always really like the image quality. And I know a fellow that had the SL that actually ended up just selling it and got the CL because like many of Leica shooters, they do have Leica M lenses and they just get the adapter. You do get the crop factor, but for some people that's not really a big deal. And so I'm gonna swap out this lens here. So my thoughts on this lens is not conclusive. I will review this lens a little bit later. I've cut this review a little bit short. I do have this lens for a little bit longer, but I am leaving the country in just a few days. And so I need to get my first impressions video out. And so this is why I'm doing this. So this is how I shot with this most of the time. The SL2 with my 28mm Summicron. Version 1, so it doesn't have the data transfer on here, so I do have to go in settings and let the camera know that I have this lens on here. But I actually really enjoyed, so this is kind of like a manual focused Leica Q, right? Because the new Q2 has the same sensor, has the same processor, and it has, I shouldn't say the same, very, very similar. There is a little bit of difference in terms of the coating, even between the Leica and the Panasonic, there's a slight difference, but with the coating, not the actual megapixels and the wiring in the back, but just the coatings on the sensor itself. But pretty much, this is like a Leica Q2 because it has the same EVF and the same, basically same sensor with the same megapixels. And this might seem like kind of a waste, but I don't think so. Even when the original SL came out, one of the things that I said why I liked the original SL was that if you are a Leica shooter with M lenses and you have the M10, or at the time it would have been the M246 or M240, or even you have an older M9, is that when you shoot more telephoto, so you got a 90mm, you have a 135mm, it's really hard to focus because the focus patch is small. And they always had the hokey shoe mount EVF that was made by Olympus, and it wasn't very good. And so when this came out, the original SL also had, I think it was a 4.4 million dot EVF, and at that time it was a class leading EVF. I said that for a lot of times having the really high resolution EVF works out great when you have these M glass, and especially if you have something like a 50 f1 or even like the 0.95, any of the Noctiluxes, having this high resolution EVF or high resolution LCD makes a huge difference. And that's the one thing I noticed when I was shooting with this. So my shooting thoughts with this camera is, first, I love the interface, and that's one of the things that Kyle, my buddy with the S1R, said that he just likes the fonts and just sort of the graphics of Leica. And that's true. When you compare this with the Panasonic, this just looks much nicer to look at. But one of the things I did notice was that even when you are even when you're looking at images, I didn't think that having 2 million pixels on the LCD would make a huge difference. Just viewing with twice the resolution of most LCDs makes a huge difference, especially when you're punching in and you're looking at focus and you're looking at your highlights and stuff like that. Having that much resolution on your rear LCD is great, as well as having this much resolution in your EVF. It just your shooting experience is that much more enhanced. And of course, you do get that with the Panasonic S1R as well. But as mentioned, it does come down a lot to styling and ergonomics. In my unboxing, I didn't realize, because I did open this up, it's a nice thick piece of rubber. And I kind of understand why they made this a rubber door, because if you're constantly putting plugs in and out of here, you don't want the door to break off. Now, Fujifilm with the X-T3 were smart. They had the ability to actually pinch and remove the doors if you're constantly, using these input-outputs over here. But I didn't notice that the USB-C is on this little separate door. So when this is closed and you're not doing any video work or anything like that, and you just want to charge, I actually always charged using the USB-C. It was way more convenient than taking the battery out, which is the same battery from the SL, which it has that locking mechanism, right? So if you accidentally clip that, the battery still doesn't come out until you press it down and pull it out. But I just kept the battery in and just used the USB-C. So that's a really good design feature here. Compared to the S1R, I mean, the big things, you will miss the articulating screen. The SL never had one, but if you are going to be shooting video, having an articulating screen actually is a really good idea. And so I do wish, I understand for aesthetic considerations, much like Fujifilm on the X Pro 3, or up to the X Pro 2, they refused to put an articulating screen, and finally with the X Pro 3, they compromised and they had that reversible kind of flip down, and I think that would actually work really great on the Leica SL3. If they created a similar thing, or if the articulating, the LCD is facing inwards, and so aesthetically it looks beautiful when it's closed, and then when you want it, you just flip it open like that. And why am I doing that? I can just show you, just one second. So here's the X Pro 3, and like a lot of Leica cameras, Fujifilm really cares about the aesthetics of the camera, and so the back of this camera looks beautiful, but it does have an articulating screen. It just folds down like this. And so if you are shooting video or you're shooting at low angles, it is nice to be able to see down low like this if you're shooting video, and then when you're not, you just flip that up. Now you just don't have to worry about this. You just focus on using the EVF. And so this SL not having an articulating screen will make it more difficult for video, not impossible. I find that if you're tall and you're a videographer, you're kind of always shooting down low, and it's nice to have an articulating screen that you can kind of look down at. Although if you are serious, you do have a full HDMI output right here, so you can't just put a monitor on here. So if you are a serious videographer, you can do so. But I do think that having a articulating screen on the SL3, a future SL3, would be great. Now for street photography, I enjoyed, again, another reason why I like using the M lenses is because they're so small and compact. So here I have the 28 Summicron, and then here I have my beloved 40mm f2 M Rokkor made by Minolta back in the 80s or late 70s, I guess. And then here is the 90. So here I have a 28, a 40, and a 90. So these three lenses weigh less than this huge honkin' 16-35. Very different glass, very different technology. Of course, these are all manual focus. This is autofocus. So for street, you probably do want to get that M to L adapter. And if you do have access to some M glass or M mount glass, so you can get Voigtlanders and T7 Artisans, TT Artisans, or other brands like that, you can put them on your Leica SL2. And that's kind of the fun of this, is because you have a EVF, it doesn't matter what lens you mount on here, you will get great results. One of the fancy mounts is the Leica R to L adapter for the SL camera. And I think, you know, even sort of the styling, it kind of reminds you of the Leica R3 and the R4, R5. Like they had the big Leica, and then you got the big Leica and the dots. If you're the type of person that covers your Leicas, you want to put a black tape here and a piece of black tape there. This will work really well on the R lenses, I'm sure, because the R glass was, as I mentioned, overbuilt, and a lot of the R lens, the styling and the design actually reminds me of the SL lens styling and design. And so if I can get a chance to get one of those, I will test it as well. You can put PL to L mount adapter, so you could put cine glass and you can do a lot of video. Now, I did not get a chance to shoot video this time around. I will do it when I get the camera back for a longer term review. But overall, the image quality, it's kind of a mixed bag. If you're into high resolution, you have a 47 megapixel sensor versus the older 24 megapixel. But you have to remember that the sensor design is still very similar to the older one. And so you've doubled the pixel density on this sensor. So in the same amount of space where there used to be 1 pixel, now you have 2. And the reason why you get noise at higher ISO is because as you crank up the sensitivity of the sensor, you start getting interference between the pixels. And so I did find that the high ISO performance has been affected, and as my other colleagues have also noticed, other reviewers have noticed, that when you're shooting at the higher ISOs like 6400 and higher, you're going to see a lot more noise than you would have seen on the previous SL, as well as the Leica M10, because I remember the M10 ISO 6400 was still spectacular. With this camera, I do find that I don't want to go above 3200, but you do have the in-body image stabilization, which does help. And you know, especially when you're using these M mount lenses, without using a gimbal, getting stabilization, it was really great being able to shoot down low at, you know, a 1/6 of a second, 1/4 of a second, stuff like that. That's something you're not used to. And so that way you could still shoot at ISO 1600, 3200, and then with the help of IBIS, you can shoot in low light. And so for image quality, I either started this video with a video insert. IQ wise, I am happy with the caveat of with 47 megapixels, you do have to worry about high ISO noise, but if you're shooting down low, then no problem at all. So my overall thoughts on the SL2 is very positive. I'm happy that Leica came out with the SL2. I was a huge fan of the original SL. I never for a second hesitated hesitated to recommend it if you are already in the Leica ecosystem by buying this mount adapter and using your M lenses. But now with the L Alliance, you have Sigma on board and a lot of their art series lenses have come across, as well as you have Panasonic. So you're going to see a much wider selection of lenses, not just native Leica lenses, as well as using all the adapters to get the PL Cine lenses or the R mount lenses and the M mount lenses. But you also have Panasonic and their lenses, and Sigma, and whoever else decides to create L mount glass for this camera system, maybe including third-party autofocus ability and be able to leverage the IBIS and stuff like that. So I'm happy with this, and look forward to my long-term review of the Leica SL2 once I get back from my trip, and on another video I'll explain that trip. But until then, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and we will talk to you soon. Happy shooting.